Hey, Creative Writing. I'm back. I wanted to share with you, since we were in the middle of our non-fiction or creative nonfiction unit, I wanted to share with you guys some of my favorite non-fiction writers. Um, so the first of those is David Sedaris. This is one of his books called Me Talk Pretty One Day. And he is a humor columnist, so he writes in a very humorous way in kind of about his life and kind of what has happened to him. He's written multiple books, but they're all each very short, like 10, 15 pages, kind of on one topic. So this is more personal essay style. I bet you can find some of his writing online, especially the essay that is the title, Me Talk Pretty One Day. It's one of his more famous ones about learning how to speak French. Very, very famous creative nonfiction. In fact, in 10th grade, if you were here in 10th grade, you read some of her already. That's Joan Didion. So this is one of her books, Slouching Towards Bethlehem. And she writes mostly about California and that, she's older. So this was originally published in 1961. So a little bit different. She generally is more of a writer as she's reporting on something. However, she does write about her family and kind of some of those things. So she's very, it's very interesting to see how she's kind of reporting on something, but also using the tools of her trade of what she's talking about, what details she's pulling in, how she's describing things in order to get her idea or her larger message across. So the essay title that you guys read in 10th grade was, no, I can't think of it. It's about a trial, about Lucille Miller. Some Dreamers of the Golden Dream, that's what it's called. Some Dreamers of the Golden Dream. I can't remember if that one's in here, in Slouching Towards Bethlehem. I want to say it's not, but Some Dreamers of the Golden Dream, yeah, it's in this book. It's about 15 pages long again, and she just really uses tone and the way she describes things. So if you remember, I'll just read you the first little bit. This is a story about love and death in the Golden Land and begins with the country. The San Bernardino Valley lies only an hour east of Los Angeles by the San Bernardino Freeway, but is in certain ways an alien place. Not the coastal California of the subtropical twilights and the soft westerlies of the Pacific, but a harsher California, haunted by the Mojave just beyond the mountains, devastated by the dry Santa Ana wind that comes through passes at 100 miles an hour and winds through the eucalyptus windbreaks and works on the nerves. October is a bad month for the wind, the month when breathing is difficult and the hills blaze up spontaneously. There has been no rain since April. Every voice seems to scream. It is a season of suicide and divorce and prickly dread wherever the wind blows. And, this isn't really a story about where this is happening necessarily, like this information, but she definitely sets a tone, right? So that's creative nonfiction. That's the creative part of it. Is really, how does she describe? She could have just said the story takes place in San Bernardino County, which is near LA, right? But she goes into detail. She really sets the tone up for this is going to be kind of a dark story. It's going to be about divorce, and it's going to be about suicide, and it's going to be about all these things, these dark ideas, is how she sets us up of is a story about love and death in the Golden Moon. So I would love to talk to you about this. It's one of my favorite pieces by her. I teach it every year. But Joan Didion. Someone who's very different in the way they write, David Shields. David Shields was not maybe my favorite when I studied. My thesis was in creative nonfiction in college. So I read a lot of creative nonfiction in college, and Shields was maybe not my favorite. It's really abstract at times, kind of jumps around. So I'll just read you a little bit of this one called Life Story. First things first. You're only young once, but you can be immature forever. I may grow old, but I'll never grow up. Too fast to love, too young to die, life's a beach. Not all men are fools. Some are single, 100% single. I'm not playing hard to get, and I am hard to get. I love being exactly who I am. And it's just really choppy, really kind of breaking up of ideas. And it kind of goes through this one called Remote, kind of goes through his infatuation with TV and all that. They're usually pretty short, so this is like a whole section. And I have to admit that I didn't super love it, but it does present kind of a different style. So like here's an interview. So David Shields. Someone else, this one is a whole memoir. So this is, if I remember right, of this guy's life called This Boy's Life by Tobias Wolff. I actually had you guys read a very short piece of this earlier this year when we were talking about beginnings and kind of character development. And so I'll read that part to you that you guys already sort of read. I didn't come to Utah to be the same boy I'd been before. I had my own dreams of transformation, Western dreams, dreams of freedom and dominion and tact-turned self-sufficiency. The first thing I wanted to do was change my name. A girl named Toby had joined my class before I left Florida, and this had caused both of us scalding humiliation. And why I really like his writing is, although he's writing it as an adult, there's still a very clear sense of like how he felt as a child and how like I feel like you're with the child as he's growing up. So Tobias Wolff's This Boy's Life's a memoir. Some more essays. Megan Daum is one of my favorite writers. People say that she's kind of a more modern Joan Didion. One of my favorites is Variations on Grief. I'm just going to read you the first paragraph. Several years ago, my oldest friend died, presenting me with an occasion not to be sad, not to cry, not to tell people and have them not know how to respond. Several years ago, I decided to create an ironic occurrence rather than a tragedy, a cautionary tale rather than the wretched injustice it really was. This is a neat trick, this business of utter detachment from everything else that great that goes on. This position of being perched in a cartoon drawing of a crescent moon, looking down at all the lonely people, all the stupid ones with their souls so foolishly close to the linings of their coat. And I just thought this was a really interesting, one of the reasons I truly love this essay is you really get the sense of grief and hurting and how the author felt like she was protecting herself, but is able to now reflect on it and kind of learn a deeper meaning of like how do we deal with grief and what does it mean to deal with something that's unfair, right? And in the essay you find her friend died of some random kind of medical occurrence that could never have been predicted, no one knew was coming, and so how do you kind of deal with that? So Megan Daum, I actually heard her read. She came to my college. She was relatively good friends with my creative nonfiction professor, so I got to hear her read and talk about her work. Not this book, but her newer book that had come out. She was awesome, and I want to be her. If you're interested in something that's a little bit closer to your own age, The Opposite of Loneliness is written by a young author. I can't remember. She would be a year older than me. But this came out, I want to say 2014, so about 6 years ago. And it's a mixture of stories and personal essays, but it does have some really interesting, kind of young sounding voices. So there is some creative nonfiction in here as well as some fiction. So The Opposite of Loneliness. I don't know if that's backwards for you guys. The other thing I want to share with you guys is the book that I think I'm going to read next, called Starless. And I don't know anything about this author or this book. My sister got it for me for Christmas 2 years ago, and I still haven't read it. So I'm going to read you the book flap, because I always think those are interesting. It says, I was 9 years old the first time I tried to kill a man. Destined from birth the service protector of the Princess Zarya, Kai has trained in the art of killing stealth by a warrior sect in the deep desert, yet there is one profound truth that has been withheld from him. In the core of the Sunblessed, Kai must learn to navigate deadly intrigue and his own conflicted identity. But in the far reaches of the western seas, the dark god Miasmas is rising, intent on nothing less than wholesale destruction. Wholesome. If Kai is to keep his soul's twin Zarya alive, their only hope lies with an unlikely crew of prophecy seekers on a journey that will take them farther beneath the starless skies than anyone can imagine. I said it continued on the back, but it's just talking about the author. So I'm going to try this book out, see how it goes. Also checking in with the character arc book that I mentioned in the last piece. And hopefully doing some editing, kind of figuring that out. So, yeah. Alright guys, I will talk to you soon.